Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of my Team Selector ahead of the game away to Burnley tomorrow in the Premier League. It's a big game for Chelsea. I think in the nature of this erratic Premier League season and looking at the next three fixtures in the Premier League for Chelsea, it's a great opportunity for Chelsea to find some consistency, put a winning run together, which is so important at this stage of the season for Chelsea now, having that sort of inconsistent start to the year. Hopefully defensive improvement will hopefully indicate that Chelsea are becoming a more consistent team now under Lampard. But looking at the next three games, Burnley, Sheffield United and then Newcastle following the last international break, it to me is a great opportunity because this erratic Premier League season, if you put 2 or 3 wins together, you're going to jump up the table massively. That's just the nature of this Premier League season. And I just think for the attacking players especially, after the defensive improvement we've seen over the previous week, you want to start to now see a more expressive team come out and more balance within our attack and defence. But going into the game, team news from Frank Lampard's press conference yesterday. Lampard confirmed Thiago Silva is ready and fit for the game despite missing the trip to Russia in midweek. Kepa though is still out. Looking at the stats against Burnley, Chelsea have lost just one of our 12 Premier League games against them, 8 wins and 3 draws. A 3-2 defeat at Stamford Bridge on the opening day of the 2017-18 season was that one defeat. The Blues have won 5 of our 6 Premier League away games against Burnley, scoring at least twice in each victory. We've actually dropped more points to Burnley at Stamford Bridge, and I think that shows you sort of this perception we have of trips to Turf Moor based on the style of football that Sean Dyche's team play. And when you actually look at the stats of Sean Dyche against the top 6, it isn't as strong as you might expect. I think there's this perception that Burnley are almost a throwback to the 05 teams of, say, Bolton under Sam Allardyce or Blackburn. Chelsea had difficult games there over the years. So it's not quite the same. Chelsea, and I think last year's game away at Turf Moor, I think was living proof of this, of how sort of a blueprint of how you go about beating Burnley at Turf Moor. The 4-2 win, Christian Pulisic's individual brilliant performance, the hat-trick. It was a wonderful day for Chelsea under Frank Lampard. That was sort of the honeymoon period under Lampard, sort of the best period of form we had consistently. Let's hope we can have another great performance and Pulisic can flourish again tomorrow. But I think it shows you sort of how maybe there's this perception thing over Turf Moor and how difficult it actually is. You expect a physical game, you expect you're going to have to be patient, but at the same time, actually looking at the stats and results over the years, Chelsea have performed pretty well when they've gone to Turf Moor in the Premier League. Burnley, though, under Sean Dyche this year, have found it difficult. They're yet to win a Premier League game this season. Looking at the way they'll approach, of course, you expect the classic 4-4-2 under Sean Dyche. That's not going to change. Biggest threats in terms of Barnes, Wood, Rodriguez, who didn't start the other night against Spurs, but I think is always worthy a goal, a good goal as well, and scored against Chelsea at Turf Moor last season. And Dwight McNeil is always an interesting player to me. You know, he's a flair player. He's probably a player you wouldn't expect to be in this Burnley team, but has lots of talent, and if you give him space, can cause us issues. And I think going into this game, in terms of the way we'll approach it, is, to me, I spoke about in my rational perspective following Krasnodar and also my Let's Talk Chelsea yesterday, the last 20 minutes of that game following Frank Lampard's triple substitution when he completely changed the midfield, changed the system from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-3-3. How much will that last 20 minutes sort of influence Lampard's decision-making and approach to this game? That's the intriguing part to me, because in terms of the formations he's used, you know, he's used 3 so far this season, but the 4-2-3-1 has been the predominant formation, and there is a sense that maybe that's a cautious sort of compromise for Lampard in terms of that midfield balance issue. And could he be a little bit more daring in this game, a game where you expect Chelsea to have a lot more of the ball, getting our best attackers into the game a lot more and not having them isolated as much, which has been an issue in recent games? And also the width of the pitch, I think that's a big thing. Whether you play a 3-4-3, a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, in games like this, the width needs to be there from the fullback and the wingers as well. We saw that in the game against Crystal Palace. If you have that, you can open up the pitch and Chelsea can find more space. But I think it's about getting the likes of Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Pulisic, Ziyech, Werner into those good positions, which unfortunately with the 4-2-3-1 the other night, until those changes were made, we didn't really have that. Of course, context is everything. You know, it was the last 20 minutes of a game. Krasnodar were tired, but still, I think it's something that people have brought up that could see Frank Lampard change his system going to Turf Moor tomorrow. And I'm going to go with the 4-3-3. Yes, it's a bold move, and I'm going to say this right away. There's no perfect solutions at the moment in terms of that midfield balance issue. I may be proved completely wrong, absolutely. You know, in terms of the 4-3-3, we haven't been calling for it. I haven't been calling for it so far this season. But I just wonder that last 20 minutes with us looking so expressive and also taking a foothold of this game and not being too passive within it and letting it drift, which is a concern against a team like Burnley, that you let the game drift. I want to see our best attackers flourish now and get more chemistry, get more goals, create more chances. So 4-3-3, Mendy in goal, the dominant Mendy, 3 clean sheets in a row, 4 clean sheets in a row for him personally since joining Chelsea. The back four, of course, is going to be very similar to recent games, but I am going to bring back Reece James. I think he's very important to this type of game because I think he can get a lot of the ball. If Burnley are going to be very narrow, and as we saw actually in the home game against Burnley last season, Reece James got a lot of space on that right, so I think he could do the same again to great effect. So Reece James at right back, Thiago Silva, of course, alongside Kurt Zouma and Ben Chilwell. And it's nice to finally start to see a consistent back four, at least a consistent part of the pitch for Chelsea, that you can start to see the strongest players. You know, that's been something we've craved for so long under Lampard, and it's nice to now go, with the exception of about one player, which is Reece James and Cesar Azpilicueta. You can sort of make the switch there depending on what game it is. It's nice to finally have consistent players back there, and you can go, yeah, these are the strongest players for these positions, which is good and is helping Chelsea get those clean sheets now more consistently. Midfield 3, I'm going to put N'Golo Kante at the base of midfield. Yes, there is that issue of him not playing naturally in this position. You could almost argue in a game of this nature, Jorginho could fit this role a little bit better because we're going to have a lot more of the ball. And in terms of Jorginho against the low block against Crystal Palace, he had a really good game that day. I just wonder whether the amount Jorginho has played and N'Golo Kante coming off the bench, having a lot of the game off on Wednesday, I just wonder whether Kante will start in this holding role like Lampard has tried before. In front of him, it's pretty obvious, Kai Havertz and Mason Mount. I think Mason Mount will finally start a game once again. There's been so much shouts about Mount starting literally every game under Lampard. You know, I think it was like 3 of the last 5 games Mason Mount hasn't started under Lampard. So Mount has been rotated consistently this season. So I think he's going to be fresh for this game. I think Lampard will bring him back for the starting lineup. I think he impressed the other night, and I think he'll add that raw energy that we need in a game like this. I think the type of runs that Mount and Havertz make are really impactful and can drag defenders out of position, which then will help the front 3 as well. So those are my 2 central sort of attacking 8 mids alongside N'Golo Kante in that midfield 3. Hakim Ziyech, off the back of his first full start for Chelsea and also his first goal for Chelsea, I think will be starting here again. Finally seeing Reece James and Hakim Ziyech hopefully on that right side, something we've been calling for a long time and I think can cause teams a lot of problems. Christian Pulisic on the left, I'm sure he'll have fond memories going back to Turf Moor after that brilliant performance last year. Let's hope he can replicate that, and also getting his first goal the other night against Krasnodar, so let's hope he can improve in the Premier League and get his first Premier League goal of the season against Burnley. And Timo Werner starting up top. There is an argument in this type of game you could bring a more physical striker in, a more of a target man like Olivier Giroud or Tammy Abraham. But for me, Ziyech, Pulisic, Werner, I want to see all these players start to play together more consistently. And it's harsh on Callum Hudson-Odoi, who impressed the other night, but I think the fact that both Ziyech and Pulisic scored doesn't really help Hudson-Odoi's case, and I think that Frank will go with his strongest front 3 at the moment, which I do think are those 3 players. So that is my team selector for the game. Please let me know your lineups in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonofChelsea, and I'll see you again.